At Turning Point Action, Turning Point USA, we have hosted President Donald Trump over 15 times in the last couple of years. We are no stranger to events, but on Friday, it was in a league of its own. Sometimes you are in the right place at the right time. And the Trump campaign reached out, said, hey, do you want to partner with this deal? You guys take the pre-program, help crowd build. I said, of course, absolutely. And in the days that were coming, we started to see some headlines that RFK was doing a press conference in Phoenix and President Trump was coming to Phoenix. And could it be possible that there was going to be a merging of forces? I was not read into any behind-the-scenes details. And credit to the Trump campaign, they played it like Cool Hand Luke. They played it close to the chest. They had a separate entrance for RFK to go through. No one even saw him enter. He was relegated off to the side. No one knew if it was actually going to happen until the moment that he took the stage. I had about a 20-minute heads up. That's about maybe a 20-minute heads up. What happened on Friday was a complete game change. A game change that outshined the DNC. This weekend, the media networks were not talking about how wonderful Chicago was, how Kamala Harris did this incredible speech. Instead, many of the headlines in the news networks were emphasizing and were talking about how RFK, a Kennedy, the namesake of Bobby Kennedy, has now endorsed Donald Trump for the presidency. Let's take a step back. Who is RFK? I have a lot of respect for RFK. I have for quite some time. RFK is the son of Bobby Kennedy. Remember, Bobby Kennedy is the brother of JFK. Bobby Kennedy was the attorney general under JFK. Bobby Kennedy ran for president after his brother was assassinated. He was also a senator from New York. Bobby Kennedy was shot in the back of a kitchen by Saran. So RFK, being the son of Bobby Kennedy, had both his father and his uncle shot in a political assassination way. RFK became a lawyer, and he is an environmentalist. Now, he's not one of those worship the earth environmentalists. In the past, he said some things that are a little bit cringe that I don't necessarily agree with, but he's someone that loves nature, loves God's creation. He loves the natural beauty. RFK became a lawyer trying to sue major corporations that he believed were polluting the environment. Okay. And that then got him into the space where he realized that there was a chronic childhood disease epidemic in this country. That autism used to be 1 in a couple thousand kids, and now it's 1 in 23 in the state of California. By the way, in hour 3, we have Callie Means coming on the program, who is a senior advisor to RFK and Donald Trump. You're going to love this conversation with Callie Means. Okay, so Callie Means talking a lot about the childhood disease epidemic. So RFK got into the space of, hey, is it possible that the 72 vaccines shots that we have on the vaccination schedule might be too much? Maybe we are giving too many vaccines for too many reasons. Now we got labeled as anti-vax. And in some ways, RFK was kind of put out to the fringes of American political discourse for about a decade. I didn't think he was on the fringes, but a lot of people consider him to be persona non grata and don't take him seriously. But during COVID, RFK saw a resurgence. He wrote the definitive book, which is The Truth About Anthony Fauci. And that book is wonderful. It exposes who Anthony Fauci is. It exposes the pharmaceutical industrial complex and the CDC, the FDA, how all these different forms of government, all these different aspects of our federal government work in tandem to support the corporate healthcare oligarchy. RFK during COVID was censored by the CDC, censored by the FDA, where the CDC and the FDA went to Facebook and said, censor RFK. He's speaking out too much. Censor him. He is saying things that we don't like. He was a pioneer for early treatments against school closures. Everything that RFK said during COVID ended up being proven correct. RFK then decided to run for president. But first, he decided to run for president as a Democrat. He wanted to challenge Joe Biden. A Kennedy against Joe Biden? Why not? But the Democrat Party acted like a mafia. They did not act like a political party that was concerned about democracy. They did not allow RFK to debate. They did not give RFK any sort of airtime on media. They did not allow RFK to be on the ballot. They sued and they fought and they basically exiled him and said, we do not want you to be part of the Democrat Party. RFK saw that the Democrat Party was no longer the party of democracy. He appealed to his fellow Democrats. They said, sorry, we don't like you. Get out of here. So RFK said, fine, I will run as an independent. Famously said, declare your independence. Very difficult to be able to get on the ballot. Very difficult to be able to have your name out as an independent candidate, but he did a very good job. Did a lot of over-the-top interviews, did a lot of podcasting, and still got some media coverage, but not nearly enough. RFK was bootstrapping his way along. He did a podcast with us, by the way. Very nice conversation back in December, about 8 months ago. And RFK was taking from Trump. He was taking from Biden. He was taking from Harris. It wasn't really clear, but ever since Kamala Harris became the nominee, RFK was definitely taking more from Donald Trump than from Kamala Harris. But RFK represents someone who is skeptical of the current power structures in our country, skeptical of the big banks, of big corporations, skeptical of big government, skeptical of the CIA, the FBI, skeptical of the Department of Justice, lawfare, the war machine, the censorship leviathan, censorship of the corruption we see in D.C. And so you have two options. One is Kamala Harris, who is a high trust of institutions candidate. Kamala Harris, who believes that our institutions are not broken, but are wonderful and should be worshiped. They should be adorned. They should be given more support, more money to the government, more power to D.C., more power to the major corporations. That is the Kamala Harris message, that our institutions are terrific and need no changes whatsoever. Donald Trump, of course, is an insurgent. Donald Trump represents the people, we the people, to take back our government. It is a challenge it is a challenge against the ruling class. Donald Trump understands that citizen-led government will reclaim this nation. RFK and Donald Trump disagree on a lot of different issues, but they agree on the big stuff. They agree that we should have a reset of the U.S. Constitution. They agree that the citizen is being squeezed by the current power centers in this country. And they also have the same enemies. Bobby Kennedy looks very favorably on Trump as someone who survived an assassination attempt. JFK did not survive. His father did not survive, but Donald Trump did. And RFK is a Democrat scorned. RFK saw that his beloved Democrat Party, he is a Kennedy, after all, from Hyannisport, Massachusetts, the Camelot Castle. But there is a defector from Camelot. And that is another thing that RFK and Donald Trump have in common. They are class traitors. They both were amongst the high society, the Kennedys, the Trumps, the billionaires. And they decided to defect from the lifestyle, the comfort of said ruling class and go fight for the American people. RFK made a courageous announcement on Friday that culminated at our event. Let's show B-roll from our event. I believe it was one of the best produced events in recent memory that we've seen. That's a picture from our event. Well over 17,000 people that attended our event in Phoenix, Arizona, with thousands and thousands of people in the overflow. This was a game change that completely outshined the DNC. It was a game change that showed that the DNC was just a distant memory. This is real. RFK has pledged to take himself off the ballot in the key battleground states and to actively campaign for Donald Trump. I will tell you exactly what that means for Donald Trump's candidacy, how many new votes that will mean for Donald Trump, what that means in Arizona, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania. We're also going to hear from RFK himself from what he said on Friday, talking against the censorship organs of the federal government, talking about the need for a restoration of freedom of speech. And you see that picture there, Donald Trump and RFK on stage together. It is the unity party against the Uniparty.